From WGCU News, I'm Amy Tardif. Apparent negligence by the Punta Gorda Police Department resulted in the shooting death of a senior citizen last August as she volunteered in a shoot-don't-shoot scenario at police headquarters. The officer who fired the shot has been charged with felony manslaughter. The city's police chief is charged with misdemeanor culpable negligence. Florida Department of Law Enforcement investigators and an outside consultant point to the lack of appropriate safety procedures. The police chief learned how to do the scenario on YouTube, and a police officer's gun that should have been loaded with blanks fired real bullets. WGCU's Michael Hirsch investigates in part one of a two-part series.
73-year-old retired librarian Mary Knowlton was allegedly shot dead by police officer Lee Coel last August 9th. She had volunteered to participate in the shoot-don't-shoot scenario the Punta Gorda Police Department had been running for about 2 years for its Citizens Academy. She would play a cop investigating a suspicious person. The city's canine officer Coel, playing the role of a perpetrator, would confront her. Coel wore dark pants and a gray hoodie. As Knowlton approached, he went for his gun. Knowlton needed to decide quickly whether to shoot him with her paintball Simunitions handgun. But Knowlton never had a chance to decide. Coel fired 2 bullets, then pulled the trigger a third time, apparently on an empty chamber, and then once more, firing another round. 1 bullet went through the door of a police car. The other 2 ricocheted off the car. 1 hit Knowlton on the inside of an elbow. 1 pierced her abdomen. She died on the way to the hospital. Florida Department of Law Enforcement, or FDLE agents, were on the scene within hours. They quickly zeroed in on the circumstances that made the shooting possible. Circumstances State Attorney Steve Russell describes as he defines the misdemeanor charge brought against Punta Gorda Police Chief Tom Lewis 6 months later.
Allegedly, on or about August 9th of 2016, did unlawfully in Charlotte County through culpable negligence expose Mary Knowlton to personal injury by failing to implement and utilize sufficient safety protocols contrary to Florida statute.
FDLE special agents questioned all the witnesses. They interviewed Punta Gorda Police Lieutenant and Director of Employee Development, Recruitment, and Training, Christopher Salzman, just after midnight. He told the FDLE there were 4 senior officers involved: Chief Tom Lewis, Captain Jeffrey Woodard, Captain Jason Cestchini, and himself. The FDLE interview showed the agents focused on the .38 caliber revolver used in the shooting and whether or not anyone had conducted safety checks beforehand on Officer Lee Coel and on that gun. Here's Special Agent Mike Ortiz questioning Lieutenant Salzman.
Did anybody, say a safety officer, do you know, did they check that gun beforehand?
I don't know which officer was checking the weapon with him when it was loaded.
Okay. But is it normal for somebody to...
Absolutely.
Would that have been your purview, or would that have been Captain Woodard's purview? Would he...
Well, in this particular case, it would have been incumbent on both of us.
Okay. Was that done? Was his weapon checked prior to the exercise?
No, because by the time I had gotten out there, the scenario had already been set.
Okay.
So my presumption was that because everything was already in place, that those safety checks had already been completed.
Okay.
Agent Mike Ortiz also questioned Punta Gorda Police Captain Jeffrey Woodard. He oversees the everyday functions of nearly all the department's sworn officers. The interview focused quickly on a safety check.
So you had a talk with him. Any type of safety check?
No, sir. He did tell me that he had his gun in his waistband. The gun that he was going to use for the scenario.
Okay, did you do any weapons check at his weapon that he was in his
I did not.
Did you ask him if he had any other duty weapons on him or any other weapons?
No, sir, I did not.
Did you do any pat down on him?
No, sir, I did not. I did not ask to see his...
Who was in control of the scenario?
I'm not...
Whose scenario was it? Somebody owned that scenario. Who owned it?
I don't think that was ever discussed.
The interview showed the department had no written protocol for a scenario it had conducted at least 5 times. No safety rules, no playbook, and no one in charge on the evening Mary Knowlton was killed. For WGCU News, I'm Michael Hirsch in Punta Gorda.
Next, in part 2 of this report, we'll tell you how the Punta Gorda police learned to conduct the shoot-don't-shoot scenario and how real bullets ended up in a gun that was supposed to fire blanks. From WGCU News, I'm Amy Tardif. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement has released its investigation of last August's death of 73-year-old Mary Knowlton during a demonstration at the Punta Gorda Police Department. An officer playing the role of a perpetrator allegedly shot and killed her. K-9 Officer Lee Coel has been charged with felony manslaughter and has been fired. He's appealing his termination this week. Police Chief Tom Lewis is charged with culpable negligence and is on paid leave. The city's internal affairs investigation, which could target additional officers, is on hold until the 2 criminal cases are resolved. In Part 2 of his report, WGCU's Michael Hirsch looks at how Punta Gorda police learned to conduct the scenario and how Cole's gun ended up loaded with bullets rather than blanks.
Within hours after the shooting outside Punta Gorda Police Headquarters, Florida Department of Law Enforcement, or FDLE agents, began interviewing witnesses. The agents quickly zeroed in on the fact that not one of the police officers attending the demonstration had conducted safety checks on Officer Lee Coel, who played the perpetrator in the scenario, or on his .38 caliber revolver. And the FDLE agents learned that no one was actually in charge. In follow-up interviews a week later, they attempted to determine how Punta Gorda police learned to conduct the shoot-don't-shoot scenario. Here's Special Agent Patrick Crow questioning the police department's Director of Operations, Captain Jeffrey Woodard.
Who makes up those training scenarios?
To the best of my recollection, they were YouTube scenarios that some other agency did.
Okay, and who in this agency is the one that gleaned or distilled that information from YouTube and put it into play here?
I believe it was the chief.
The chief himself?
I believe so, yes, sir.
The problem with copying scenarios off of YouTube is that only the fun stuff is on the screen. You can watch any number of them without seeing any of the planning or the safety checks on the officer playing the role of the suspect. This is one example from Maricopa County, Arizona.
What kind of car do you drive?
This is my car, man.
Oh.
The transcripts of the FDLE interviews show no one was assigned to check Officer Lee Coel's gun for the demo. No one patted him down to be certain he wasn't carrying another gun he might accidentally use. No one questioned why Coel was using his personally owned .38 caliber revolver instead of, for example, a department-owned starter pistol that just goes bang but cannot fire bullets. And no one looked inside Officer Coel's revolver. If they had, they would have seen it was loaded with .38 caliber wad cutters rather than blanks. The NRA blog defines wad cutters as flat front bullets designed to punch distinct circular holes in paper targets. City records show that in February of 2016, the Punta Gorda Police Department purchased 3 boxes of .38 caliber Winchester blanks for Coel to use while training his police dog. The FDLE report on the shooting says he had those blanks in the rear of his canine car. But on the night of the shooting, he'd loaded the gun with the wad cutters. They weren't department-issued bullets. FDLE investigators wanted to know where he got them. The answer came in their interviews with Lieutenant Katie Heck, the department's community relations officer. Her husband is a Charlotte County Sheriff's lieutenant, and her interview with Special Agents Patrick Crow and Gary Negrinelli revealed he had lots of ammunition stored in their home.
Was there ever a time you remember where you supplied him with blanks? That you handed him blanks?
Yes.
Okay, when was that?
It was when I moved because we cleaned out all of our ammo.
Sure.
And that was July 4th weekend. So it was sometime the second week of July. I gave him a box. It was definitely a small one, and it was of blanks. And they were left over from my husband.
Okay.
Because we just determined there was no reason we didn't need them.
Any other kind of ammo that you'd ever gave him?
No.
Just those blanks?
The problem was the bullets weren't blanks, and the agents knew it. The FDLE reports the box was labeled with the code for hollow base wad cutters, but Heck, who told the agents she isn't a gun person, told them she didn't know the difference. According to a report by an outside committee created by Punta Gorda's city manager and chaired by Cape Coral's retired police chief, Lee Coel's use of ammunition obtained from someone other than the department's armorer constitutes, quote, a clear violation of the policy that was in place at that time. When State Attorney Steve Russell announced the charges against Coel and Chief Lewis, many Punta Gorda residents expressed outrage that others whose actions appeared to have contributed to Mary Knowlton's death were not also charged. But Russell says deciding whether or not to bring charges and against whom is a complicated procedure that focuses on whether the evidence will support a conviction.
We follow a process in every case to look at the factual evidence presented to us. We look at admissible evidence. We look at those allegedly involved, and then we reach a decision on the law and the facts as who may be appropriate to be charged and at what level.
The FDLE interviews with high-ranking Punta Gorda officers exposed a cavalier attitude towards safety in a weapons exercise with more than 40 civilians and police officers observing. But one of the two interviews with Captain Jeffrey Woodard revealed the scenario had been conducted at least 4 times, with Officer Lee Coel acting as the perpetrator. Each time, Coel had used that same personally owned .38 caliber revolver. No one had ever checked that weapon to determine what it was loaded with. FDLE Special Agent Mike Ortiz asked Captain Woodard if Lee Coel said anything immediately after the shooting.
He did make a statement. He goes, I just don't understand what happened. These are the same rounds that I use all the time. 3
times at Citizen Academy presentations, the Punta Gorda Police Department got lucky. But on August 9th, 2016, its luck ran out. For WGCU News, I'm Michael Hirsch in Punta Gorda.
Good evening. I'm Special Agent Mike Ortiz of the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. Today's date is August the 9th, 2016, and the time is 12:06. Correction. Today is August the 10th, 2016. The time is 12:06 a.m. Be taking a sworn statement from Punta Gorda Police Department Lieutenant Christopher Salzman, S-A-L-S-M-A-N. Lieutenant Salzman's work address is the Punta Gorda Police Department, located at 1410 Tamiami Trail in Punta Gorda, Florida, 33950. Lieutenant Salzman, am I pronouncing it right?
Yes.
Lieutenant Salzman, can you please state your name and your date of birth?
Christopher Salzman.
And Lieutenant, do you know the meaning of perjury?
Yes.
In your own words, can you tell me what perjury is?
Lying after giving, lying under oath.
Yes, sir. At this time, will you allow me to swear you in for the purpose of taking a sworn statement?
Yes, sir.
Your right hand is raised. Do you, Lieutenant Christopher Salzman, solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the matter we're about to discuss?
Yes, I do.
Very good. Relax. Reason we're here this morning is due to an officer-involved shooting that occurred at the Punta Gorda Police Department early last evening on August the 9th. Just briefly, Lieutenant, you're Lieutenant here at the Punta Gorda Police Department. How long have you been employed with the police department?
17 years.
Okay. And your current assignment is, what do you do?
Employee development, recruitment, training.
Okay. Are you in charge of training as well?
Yes.
Okay. And recruitment, you said?
Yes.
Okay. And direct your attention to an event that occurred yesterday at the police department. It was a Chamber of Commerce. Can you give me some background on what type of event that was?
It's a Chamber of Commerce event. It's similar to a Citizens Academy where we bring a group of folks in, introduce them to the police department, show them the records section, criminal investigation section, road patrol section, and then run them through our equipment that the officers carry, then introduce them to the weapons, the taser, and also simunitions weapons.
Okay. So yesterday, who was the group that was invited or that participated?
It was our Chamber of Commerce here in Punta Gorda.
Okay. And was this a one-night event or was this a series of classes?
No, a one-night event, 2 hours. It was expected to go from 5:30 to about 8 o'clock.
Okay. And how many people were you expecting roughly?
Approximately 40.
40 people? Okay. And who was in charge of putting that on? Who in the department was the organizer?
Well, primarily Lieutenant Katie Heck.
Okay. And did she have assistance from other members of the department?
It's coordinated with the Chief of Police.
Okay. And so yesterday at 5:30, the event starts at 5:30. What officers were assigned to provide some of the training or some of the insight on the department?
The officers that were involved in presenting it were Chief Tom Lewis, Captain Jeff Woodard, Captain Jason Shiskini, myself, That's pretty much the primary officers that were involved in this.
Okay. And I understand there was some role-playing involved?
Yes.
And who were the participants in that?
The two role-playing officers were Canine Officer Lee Coel and Master Police Officer Shane Chodakowski.
Okay. And so, again, I've never participated in one of these. I've done some training in the police academy when I was with Charlotte County years ago. But I just was responsible for one end. I didn't coordinate the whole class. So correct me if I'm wrong. Was there any type of menu or an itinerary that was sent out beforehand advising the folks that were attending what they would be participating in?
I don't know if it was sent to them. We had an itinerary that we were following here at the police department.
Okay. And did you have a contact person with the chamber?
I believe it was John Wright.
John Wright? Okay. And who would have facilitated that? Would that have been Lieutenant Heck?
Lieutenant Heck or our accreditation manager, Gloria Sapanik.
Okay. So, getting to tonight's itinerary, what was the schedule of events that were supposed to occur there?
The schedule of events would have started out with the class gathering in our training room, and it would have been the chief's welcome, where he goes through a PowerPoint overview of the department, lasting approximately 30 minutes, which would have went from about 5:30 to 6 p.m.
Okay. And I see that you're reading from a form. Is that an itinerary that you folks used tonight?
Yes, it is.
Can I see that?
Yes.
Or would you be able to get a copy of this for me?
Yes.
Okay. And basically, what I'm looking at is it's on Punta Gorda Police. It's got a patch at the top of the page. It's entitled Chamber Police Night, Punta Gorda Police Department Outline, August 9th, 2016, 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. So, yes, if I could get a copy of this, that would be great. I'm just going to look at it. It says Part 1 is the Chief's Welcome, 30 minutes. And correct me if I'm wrong, if maybe you, or maybe the secretary maybe skipped over something, I don't know. Section A says, welcome all participants to the police department. Is that about right?
Yes.
B is PowerPoint overview of the department.
Yes.
Okay. And Part 2, it says Police Department Tour, 15 minutes by Lewis, Salzman, and Shashini?
Yes.
Okay. Section A of that is Criminal Investigation Section, Evidence and Property, 5 minutes. Is that correct?
Yes, they were broken into 3 groups, 3
Okay.
equal-sized groups. We each took one group, and
Okay.
we took them to each station for approximately 5 minutes each.
Okay. And the second is Road Patrol Section, 5 minutes, which was an overview of road function. Is that correct?
Correct.
C was Record Section, 5 minutes, and it was an overview of record function. Is that correct?
Correct.
The third phase was Static Display, 15 minutes. Just for whoever's listening or reading the transcript, what is the static display?
What we had set up out there was our marine truck and boat. We also had one of our Crown Victoria vehicles, which belongs to one of our SWAT team members, outfitted with all his gear so that the participants could come and view the marine gear, and also the gear that one of our patrolmen who participates in SWAT would carry in their vehicle.
Okay. And basically sections 1, 2, and 3 is large boat display, overview of uses, overview of equipment. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, section B had road patrol, 5 minutes. Just going back to Marine Unit, Officer Kennedy, he was responsible for that?
Yes.
Okay, and section B was road patrol, 5 minutes, was Brandon Angelini. That was a vehicle display and overview of equipment. Is that correct?
Correct.
Section C was bike unit, 5 minutes. Shane Chodakowski?
Yes, Chodakowski.
Okay. First section is display. The second part is overview of uses. Is that correct?
Correct.
Section 4 shows shoot and don't shoot scenarios, 25 minutes. This involved Chief Lewis, Salzman, you, Chodakowski, and Coel. It says the whole class will participate in this after viewing the static display. Is that correct?
Correct.
In Section 5 of the itinerary was classroom teachings, That was supposed to be for 35 minutes by Chief Lewis and yourself. That involved taser, 20 minutes. First section, overview of weapon. 2, overview of uses. Third section was demo. Was that scheduled also?
It was scheduled, yes.
Okay. And section B was weapon systems. Patrol rifles, Glock, OC, and ballistic shield, 15 minutes. Overview of weapon. Section 2 is overview of uses. Was that on the schedule as well?
Yes, sir.
And section 6 shows a Q&A period. So that's question and answers.
Yes.
And section 7 is evaluation of the class. Is that correct?
Yes.
And again, if I could get a copy of this or keep this.
You can keep that.
Okay, great. All right, let's go to... so you said the class was broken up into 3 sections.
Mm-hmm.
So roughly 10 people a group?
10 to 12, yes.
Okay. And did you lead a group?
Yes.
What group did you lead tonight?
I had the final group. It was the last group to leave the class.
Okay, and what was that? That was the last group to left the class, okay.
Yes, they just broke into thirds.
I got you. All right, and the shoot, don't shoot scenarios is pretty much what we're concerned about. That included Lewis, Chief Lewis, Lieutenant Salzman, yourself, Chadakowski, what's his rank?
Master Police Officer.
And his first name?
Shane.
Shane, and Coel, C-O-E-L, what's his first name?
Lee.
Okay. And this whole class will participate in this after the static display. That's the shoot, don't shoot scenario. Explain to me how that was going to work today.
The scenario, the first scenario is basically a suspicious person complaint. There were 2 vehicles that were parked perpendicular to the building, and the officer, who was one of our class participants, was to be armed with a simunitions Glock weapon, similar to what's carried by the officers. She was to be dispatched to a suspicious person complaint. She was to get out, make verbal contact with the perpetrator, who is wearing a hood, acting suspiciously between the 2 vehicles. When the verbal interaction didn't get her the information that she was requesting, he was to respond to the back of the vehicle, where he was going to retrieve a weapon that was on the rear bumper, and at that point, direct the weapon in her direction and fire off 1 or 2 of the blanks, and basically get her attention and see what her response would be, utilizing the simunition weapon that we supplied her.
Okay. And how was the candidate How was the candidate for this particular scenario, the shoot, don't shoot scenario, how were they picked?
The selection process, in the beginning of the class, every seat in the classroom had a pen, a police department pad, and inside each one of the pads, selected pads had either the chief's card. Well, each one of them had one of his cards, but if the card on the back said taser, they participated in the taser discharge. If it said gun, they were selected to participate in the shoot, don't shoot scenario with the gun.
Okay, so it was just a luck of the draw. Whoever sat at that desk, and they picked a card, where they had that notebook and they had a card that's what they were going to participate in.
Correct.
Okay, and where did that take place? Where did they get the notebook, and where did that take place?
It was in the beginning of the class during the introduction portion.
In the classroom?
Yes.
Okay.
When Chief Lewis introduced himself to all the members and said, that there's a gift on the table for you, open it up, and in the back you'll find my business card. On the back of the card, if it says taser, you've been selected to participate if you so choose. If it says gun, you've been selected if you want to participate.
And how many people were selected for the shoot, don't shoot?
2.
And how many were selected for the taser?
2.
So just 4. So you were going to run 4 separate scenarios, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So for the scenarios, were they going to be different scenarios? For instance, the first don't shoot scenario, would that have been the same as a second person going through? Would the second person be going through the same thing?
Yes. When it comes to the shoot, don't shoot, there was going to be 2 scenarios for each of those 2 participants.
Right.
The first person was going to go through their 2 scenarios while the other person was kept secluded in the building. They wouldn't see the 2 scenarios. Then after the first person completed their 2, the second person would come out and then they would do those same 2.
I see. So the shoot, don't shoot was going to be 2 scenarios.
Correct.
Okay. So I think you just gave me a synopsis of the first scenario, correct?
Correct.
What was the second scenario? The second shoot, don't shoot scenario. What did that encompass?
The second scenario, obviously the first one was to get their awareness heightened by the firing of the firearm with the blanks, and on the second scenario it would be a similar circumstance. They would be dispatched to a physical disturbance involving 2 participants. When they get there, there would be 2 people basically shoving and pushing against the wall. The officer or the participant would be sent there to try to break up this disturbance, and because their awareness would be heightened from the first scenario, many times they will be quick to draw the gun, and while that's happening, the bad guy in scenario number 2 is directed to break away from the fight and direct their aggression toward the officer coming at them, the participant, and find out what their reaction would be.
Okay. So just paraphrasing, the first scenario was a suspicious person.
Correct.
Call near a car, so maybe like a prowler, that type of...
Yes.
Okay.
And the suspicious person in that scenario says, "This is my girlfriend's car, I don't need you, don't need the police." And
okay. All right. So let's go to the first scenario. Did you know the woman, the first participant?
I know her from past events.
And was she debriefed on what type of scenario, what type of call? Tell me, first of all, who would do a breakdown from the time she got out there, or how she got her simunitions, or explain that to me.
Yeah, on this particular one, Captain Woodard actually took care of the simunitions weapon.
Okay.
He prepared the simunition weapon that was supplied to Miss Knowlton.
Okay.
He equipped her with her badge, the weapon, the magazine, and prepped her on the scenario. Once he presented the magazine and the weapon to Chief Lewis presented it to the crowd, explained to them how the simunition rounds work, what they're made up of, the fact that we use different color ones when there's multiple officers to identify, who the shooters are. Once that explanation was provided to the crowd, the weapon was then turned over to Miss Knowlton, magazine was loaded in. She was basically told, this is how the weapon works. I did listen as Captain Woodard explained to her the scenario and safety precautions for the weapon, indexing the finger. Don't put your finger in the trigger guard unless you intend to shoot. Basic things that we would tell anyone, first time handling a weapon, whether it be simunition or a real weapon.
Right.
She explained that she understood. As he walked her over to the location of where the patrol car would be, where she was to begin, he explained the scenario that it was going to be a suspicious person complaint and you've just been dispatched to it. From there, she began the scenario.
Okay. And this was Captain Woodard. And where were you at did you participate in any of the debriefing to Miss Knowlton?
No.
Okay. How about Chief Lewis? Did he give her any instruction or any debriefing?
No, I don't believe that Chief Lewis had any interaction with Miss Knowlton apart from the presentation of the weapon after it was made safe.
Was there any yeah, I'll get to that in a second. Before I forget, was there anything in place in case, say, Miss Knowlton was reckless with her firearms? Say she panicked or whatever and was turned around and shot at the crowd. Was anybody? Was she assigned a handler per se? Do you rehearse that type of? Do you understand where I'm getting
yes.
at? Okay.
Yeah. The officer that presents the scenario and the weapon will usually be the handler of that and follow through with the scenario, and that essentially is your safety officer that will call end scenario at that point.
Who would that have been?
That would have been, in this case, that would have been Captain Woodard.
Captain Woodard. So what's his role called during that scenario?
Well, essentially, he would be the safety officer.
The safety officer,
the one
that's the word I'm looking for.
To call in scenario.
You hear what I'm saying? She panics and oh my God, and turns around and points the gun which way somebody can, hey, calm her down and,
Correct.
point that gun in that firearm in a safe direction?
Yes.
Okay. So Captain Woodard would have been her safety officer. Let's focus now to Officer Lee Coel.
Yes.
What was his role in the scenario?
In the shoot, don't shoot scenario, he would be the bad guy.
Okay. And who was he briefed by today as far as the scenario? Who briefed Officer Coel on the scenario?
Well, this is a repeat scenario, one that we've done numerous times, and Officer Coel has been the bad guy participant in this exact scenario on numerous occasions. So he is quite familiar with both scenarios as we've done it numerous times. So he was well aware, and Captain Woodard would have had the scenario laid out, and there had been no deviation from prior scenarios that we've run.
Okay. How many times do you think Officer Coel's participated in this, roughly?
In this particular one, I would say 4 times.
4 times, okay. So the scenario is he's the suspicious person, he's the prowler lurking near his, quote, girlfriend's car, and there is a firearm used at a prop, or his firearm that's on the rear bumper of the vehicle, right?
Yes, located by the license plate.
And what type of gun was used today?
I believe that one is a .38.
A .38, okay. Did anybody, say a safety officer, did the safety officer, do you know, did they check that gun beforehand?
I don't know which officer was checking the weapon with him when it was loaded.
Okay. But is it normal for somebody to, because, we're on the range and, they check your weapon,
Absolutely.
Would that have been your purview, or would that have been Captain Woodard's purview? Would he?
Well, in this particular case, it would have been incumbent on both of us.
Okay. Okay, was that done? Was his weapon checked prior to the exercise?
No, because by the time I had gotten out there, the scenario had already been set.
Okay.
So my presumption was that because everything was already in place, that those safety checks had already been completed.
Okay. So everybody was already out there, including Captain Woodard, Chief Lewis, everybody was already out there?
Yes.
You're saying. What was the reason for your delay for coming out?
I was coming from the prior static display area.
Okay. All right. So you were the last person on deck,
Yes.
I suppose. Okay. Are you a firearms instructor?
No.
Okay. Prior to today's event, or yesterday's event at Chamber, was there any type of briefing beforehand with the participants' role? What roles each person was going to play?
For this particular event?
Academy, yeah, for the Chamber event?
No, just the itinerary that you see laid out there.
And I understand you've done this before.
Yes.
Exactly, you use the same model that I'm showing on the piece of paper, just the different dates?
Yes.
Okay.
Generally. There's
okay.
Yeah, it follows that same guide.
Okay. When so the shoot don't shoot scenario started. Okay, so tell me what happened.
When the scenario actually began,
yeah.
Miss Knowlton walked toward Officer Coel.
Mm-hmm.
Officer Coel then began. She had very low verbal dialogue toward him. Couldn't really hear exactly what he was saying back to her. Basically, had a few hand motions. He started walking away from her. She wasn't very aggressive toward him. She had the weapon out the whole time. He asked her, he goes, "What do you have your weapon out for? I'm not doing anything wrong." He walked in between the two cars like he was walking away from her. As soon as he got to the back of the car, she wasn't very aggressive with him. He got to the back of the car, he picked the weapon up, He turned toward her, and 2 shots rang out. She immediately went down. It looked like, from my angle, looked like she was ducking down, like the shots had scared her. Sounded like blanks to me, because we've used blanks in the past. Couldn't tell that she had been struck by anything. As Officer Coel fired the 2 rounds, he came around the back of the vehicle heading toward my direction, which would have been, if you're looking at the scenario from the camera angle, I don't know if you saw that video. If you're looking from this point at where the 2 cars are, he came around the left of the car to the left, came around the back end of it. And as he was coming around, I heard him try to fire one more round. I heard a click, and then he came around and fired again, and then that second round went off. And shortly after that, I could look, and I could see something on the side of the car. And I'm looking at it, and I thought it was a hole. And sure enough, we go over, and she's down on the ground. Initially, we thought maybe she had a heart attack or an anxiety attack. And then as we got closer, you could see there was blood. So again, we didn't know if she fell and hurt herself. You know, she's an older woman. Don't know if she had thin skin or if she had a pre-existing injury. And she wasn't speaking. She wasn't able to speak. And then we could see some blood in here. Someone managed to pull the shirt open, and we could see clearly that she had a trauma wound right here in the upper abdomen. Okay. And that's when everybody began working on her. A couple of the guys tried to get some clotting material to get some pressure on there. Another guy ran into the FD. We tried to push the crowd back into the room, just to get them away from there.
Did Officer Coel make any statement?
I think shortly after the realization had set in, he said something to the effect that that he thought that she was hit, and he goes saying something to the effect that it can't be. He goes, these are blanks. He goes, I use these all the time. Now, on the other side, I now know that there was a hole in that door. I could see it. One of the other officers, I think it was Officer Gonzalez, began to walk Officer Coel away from the scene and toward where my patrol car was parked, off to the left. So my first thought was, let's get that weapon, because I don't know if it's 5 rounds, 6 rounds. I heard 3 that went off. So I went and found him over there and asked him where the weapon was, and he said, I laid it down on the second car, not the one with the bullet hole in it, but the car furthest from him. And I said he laid it on the back trunk. So I went over there, saw the weapon laying on the trunk, opened it up, and I just remember looking in and seeing, I didn't know if it was a 5-shot or a 6-shot, but there was 2 empty cylinders in there. Pushed the rounds out, took them, sat them on the trunk. Didn't pay much attention. I knew that they were all empty though. Couldn't recall if there was 3 or 4. If it had been a 5 or 6 shot. Recalling now, there was 3 rounds that were fired, 1 click in between. So, assuming.
Was there any live rounds left in it?
No.
Were you able to tell, based on your experience, whether they were live, whether they were blanks or?
No, because they
mimic.
They look exactly the same.
Let's go back to the hole in the door. This is first I've got. So there was actually a round that went into the car door?
Yes.
Okay. So just walk me through the shots. What he did. He's facing Mrs. Knowlton, correct? And give me the shot sequence. How he did that again?
She's walking between the 2 cars. The cars are parked parallel to each other.
Okay.
Perpendicular to the building, almost like 2 officers would get together when they're talking to each other between the 2 cars. He walks between the 2 cars like he's going towards the trunk of the 1 car where he makes the left turn.
Okay.
She's following behind him. He gets to the trunk. grabs the weapon off of where the license plate would be,
Right.
does a quick turn. She's still between the two cars. She's about 4.5 feet from him. She's actually walking toward him. She has the weapon out and in her hand. And from what I can see, that because of the windows and the, he's behind the passenger and rear window, I see the one shot, two shot, and then he turns and goes to run around the back of the car.
Right.
And as he comes around the car, I could hear he's trying to shoot another round. I hear the click, and then he comes around the side and like he's going to shoot me, through the windows, fires another round, and that's the one that goes through the door.
The door to the other car.
To the car that's closest to me.
Close to you.
It would have been the passenger side of the car that he took the gun off of the license plate trunk area.
Okay. So 3 shots fired.
Yes.
Okay. That explains that. Okay. Is that the same gun, the revolver? Is that used in was that the same weapon that was used in the prior scenarios?
Well, apparently yes.
Okay.
That was unbeknownst to me.
Okay.
Because this is only my second time actually participating in this.
Okay.
The position that I'm in right now was previously held by Captain Woodard.
Okay.
So he has run these scenarios in the past.
Okay.
And what I found out today was that weapon, apparently, or from what we know at this point, is Lee Cole's training weapon that he may use for blanks during his canine training.
Okay.
So we have a different 38 caliber weapon that we use for our simunitions training.
Okay.
That I thought we were using with the blanks.
Okay.
But that wasn't the case.
Okay.
So I've never issued this weapon to him. I've never checked it for safety. The first time I've touched that weapon was today when I cleared it.
Okay. So just going back as far as a safety officer, you got to the scenario late. So do you know or do you not know whether or not a safety check was performed on that gun?
Do not know.
Do not know, okay. Is that revolver painted in any way, like orange handle, blue?
No.
Nothing. In other trainings that you folks do here, do you use the 38 for...
The 38 that we use has a restrictor on it that will not allow a regular round to go in it.
Is that painted blue or...
No,
red?
but it has the restrictor on it.
Okay. And for the people that don't know what a restrictor is, that read this transcript or listen to this audio?
It will not permit a lethal round to go through it.
Okay. As far as a blank, is it possible that a blank has a wad in it that could
Yes.
be a projected? Is it possible?
Yes.
Okay. Would that be a defect in the round?
I'm not very familiar with blanks.
So we'll leave it at that.
Yes.
Okay. We'll leave it at that. That's all the questions I have, Lieutenant. Is there anything that you can think of that I haven't asked that you feel that may be important to this?
No, sir.
Okay. Has everything you've told me been the truth to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That'll conclude this morning's interview. Today's date is August 10th, 2016. The time is 12:39 a.m. Thank you, Lieutenant. Good morning. I'm Special Agent Michael Ortiz of the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. Today's date is August the 10th, 2016, and the time is 11:02 a.m. We'll be taking a second statement this morning from Lieutenant Christopher Salzman of the Punta Gorda Police Department. Today's interview is taking place at the Punta Gorda Police Department at 1410 Tamiami Trail in Punta Gorda, Florida. Specifically, we're in the Criminal Investigations Section interview room. Lieutenant Salzman We covered the perjury statute yesterday, and I'm just going to swear you in real quick.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth of the matter we're about to discuss?
Yes.
Great. I just wanted to get some clarification. It was late last night, and I just want to make sure that I covered it. At the conclusion of the officer's discharges, did you take control of Officer Cole's weapon?
Yes.
Okay. And can you just describe that weapon to me again?
It was a revolver type weapon, silver in color, and when it was pointed out to me, it was on the hood, actually on the trunk. I'm sorry, it is on the, it's on the hood of the second vehicle.
Of the unmarked or marked?
That would be the marked.
It was on the hood of the marked. Okay. And when it was on the hood of the marked, what did you do with that weapon?
The cylinder was still in the closed position. It was not in a safe position. I wasn't sure if there was any live rounds in it. So I opened the cylinder, and when I had looked inside, I had seen that not all of the entire chamber was not filled with rounds. To the best of my recollection, I thought there was 2 open positions in that cylinder. Pressed the plunger, ejected the rounds, and I believe there was 4 rounds, spent cartridges that I took out. There was no live rounds left in the weapon. I took those 4 spent cartridges, stood them upright on the trunk of the vehicle, left the weapon in the open position right next to those rounds where it was photographed by someone who had a camera in the vicinity at the time. I don't recall who it was that was taking the photos.
Okay. And the revolver, was it the barrel length? What was the barrel length on that?
It was short.
Okay. And the cylinder, how many round capacity?
At the time, I thought it was 6.
Okay.
But I didn't take the time to actually count. But now I believe it was a 5, and I had pulled 4 out, which would mean that there was 1 open slot.
Okay. And what color were those cartridges?
They were like an aluminum color.
Aluminum color? Okay. And at some point, did you secure the weapon? What did you do with the weapon?
I remained in the vicinity because the ambulance had been coming up. I stayed within 2 to 3 feet of it and tried to assist the emergency responders.
And did you pass that weapon off to anybody?
The units that were securing the scene and put up the crime scene tape, I believe that was Lieutenant David Lipker, Corporal Grimm, and Officer Jimenez.
Okay, so one of them took custody of that weapon?
They secured that inner perimeter, and everyone cleared that area.
Okay, all right. Lieutenant, that's all the questions I have right now. Is there anything that you can think of that maybe, since last night and this morning, maybe, something I may have not asked that you feel is important?
Not that I can think of at this time, sir.
All right. Has everything you've told me been the truth to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
Okay. That'll conclude this morning's interview. Today's date is August the 10th, 2016, and the time is 11:06 a.m. Thank you, Lieutenant.
Okay.
All right, this is Special Agent Gary Negrinelli, Florida Department of Law Enforcement. It is August 15th, 2016. Approximate time is 2:47 p.m. I'm currently at the Punta Gorda Police Department. This is an interview with Captain Woodard. This is going to be in reference to case number FM-01-0027. Also present in the room is Special Agent Supervisor Patrick Crow. Captain Woodard, could you state your full name and spell it?
Jeffrey B. Woodard, W-O-O-D-A-R-D.
Okay. Your hand's already raised. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. What is your current position here?
I'm the operations commander for the police department.
Okay. And did you have supervision over Officer Cole?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay, he was one of your officers.
Yes, sir.
How long was that for?
Month and a half, approximately, maybe 2 months, somewhere in that range.
Okay. Were you involved? How involved were you? Were you involved with any of his training during that time?
His training during the month and a half, 2 months, no. Prior to being promoted in, I think September of last year, I was the training coordinator for the department. I was the lieutenant in charge of that. So I am aware of a lot of the training that he received prior to that. But as far as supervision for the last month and a half, 2 months, no, other than knowing that he goes to, he trains, I believe it's every Tuesday or every Wednesday with the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office.
Okay. And so when he did that training, what would he do? Would he let you know, or would this be documented? Or
it is documented in the K9 training module in RMS.
Okay.
In our policy, I believe, mandates that he gets at least 16 hours of training per month, and we were allowing him to train, I think it was weekly, 8 hours or a full shift every single week.
Okay. So when he went to this training, then he'd come back, and that would have to be documented in RMS?
Yes.
Would?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then do you have to go in there and like approve it or review it or anything like that?
The way it goes through, I believe it goes through the shift supervisor. It comes through as a regular report. They would review it and send it through, and our employee development coordinator is supposed to make sure that he is completing the mandatory monthly training hours, which, like I said, I believe our SOP is 16 hours, and he was doing it, I think, weekly.
Okay.
Every week he was training.
So I'd go through RMS, it'd go to a shift supervisor who was a
whoever the shift supervisor was for that specific. And I believe it's a K9 report, and they would approve it. They have to approve it on their end.
Okay. All right. And then you said prior to that you were the training lieutenant?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Were you more involved then with all the training that he was doing?
K9 wise, no. I've never been, other than when I was in that role, I would go in and just make sure that he was meeting his mandatory training hours. But outside of that, I had nothing to do with what training consisted of, when he trained, or anything like that. It was more just a monitoring to ensure that he was meeting our SOP requirements.
Okay. All right.
Who certifies all that training? What organization?
As far as
to be a canine handler as a law enforcement officer in the state of Florida, who certifies the officer and the canine? The minimum certification required.
I do not know.
Okay.
I could go back. I know that he has the certification, and I do not know. I know that he's had the training, but I can't.
Okay.
We do have our other Captain Jim Nichols, who's our reserve captain. He is a USPCA judge, and he's always been very involved in the whole training aspect of it, because he was a canine handler for 20 some odd years. So some of those questions he would know probably better than I.
Okay.
But we do have all the training certificates should you need to see those.
Would they be in his personnel file?
They would be, yes, they'd be in his training, yes.
Okay. As far as getting back to the incident, we've talked to you and several others that evening about, including the chief, about the scenarios that you incorporate into this citizens training, the role plays. There's 2 different role plays that you did with 2 different citizens, correct?
Yes, sir.
The one involving the shoot, don't shoot, and then the one involving the fight. One involving the suspicious person with the gun, the one that where this incident occurred, and then the second one would have been with 2 suspicious people fighting.
Yes, sir.
Correct? And then obviously there was the taser gun where they're allowed, some people are allowed to utilize that to see what it's like.
Yes, sir.
Correct? Okay. Who makes up those training scenarios?
The scenarios, to the best of my recollection, they came off of a YouTube. They were YouTube scenarios that some other agency did with a reporter I say Arizona, possibly. I'm not sure where that's where the idea to use those scenarios came from.
Okay. And who in this agency is the one that gleaned or distilled that information from YouTube and put it into play here?
I believe it was the chief.
The chief himself?
I believe so, yes, sir. He would have been the captain at the time.
Okay, gotcha.
Because I think we started doing these scenarios about 1.5 years, 2 years ago,
Right.
and I want to say that that's where it came from.
All right. Is there any written scripts that lay out these scenarios?
Not that I'm aware of, sir.
Nothing in writing?
Not that I'm aware
Okay.
of.
Any protocols that are written out, the do's and don'ts of what should be done or not done during these trainings?
No, sir.
Okay. Any safety precautions written out for safety like a safety officer being assigned to each scenario to check various aspects? Like I understand the chief went through this ammunition gun with Mrs. Knowlton, correct?
Correct.
Anybody else playing the role of a safety officer that would have, checked the weapon that was used by Officer Coel to make sure that gun was in proper condition and with the right ammo inside, such as blanks?
No, sir. I don't know who was. I don't think there was a designated safety officer that night.
Okay. Is there anything in written policy that mandates that it should be in place?
No, sir.
So there was no, as far as you know, violation of policy at this point, doing these scenarios without a safety officer?
No, sir.
Okay. However, nothing in writing has been established or even, should I say, found at this point as far as
a policy stating that would. No, sir.
Okay. And there's absolutely no scripts to these scenarios, no written scripts of how things should go or maybe not go, or like if the person does if the citizen acting as a police officer does A, then the suspicious person will do B. If they do C, then so there's nothing.
No, sir. There's no detail that I'm aware of. There's no detailed scripts that were ever composed to direct the scenarios.
So it would be considered more of an ad-lib situation?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Were the prior scenarios pretty much carried out the same way, though? Where, like it appears in the video, there's a confrontation, and then Officer Coel goes, to get the gun, and is that pretty much what he does every time?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And it was, I think there was one other time that we did it that we used a different role player. Lee Coel wasn't the role player, but it was played out in the same manner.
Was the same gun used?
I believe so, yes, sir.
Okay. So let me ask you this, Captain. As far as you know, was there ever any time these past scenarios where safety offers were implemented and utilized? Do you recall anybody that's been utilized as an actual safety officer to check Officer Coel's gun to confirm what his load is? What's loaded in the gun?
No, sir.
Nothing nobody in the past that you know played that role that we could talk to?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I think I know from my perspective, my understanding was that was a blanks pistol, just a starter's pistol that could not fire live rounds, and there was just no, in my mind, no scenario whatsoever where live rounds could have been introduced into that weapon. Now, on the other side of that, with the firearm that we provided Mary, I went into the armory and I actually had Detective DeVault with me, and I had him check over the ammo with me. I had him hand it to me individually so we could both verify that it was that they weren't live rounds. But there's just no, I still can't wrap my head around it. There's no scenario that I could envision live rounds being introduced into that weapon.
Okay. But again, just for the record, you have no history of utilizing a safety officer, a second person to check the Coel's weapon before the scenario commences?
To my recollection, no, sir.
Okay.
Good. Anything else that you'd like to add?
No, sir.
Okay.
I'm just trying to think who was involved in the other role plays that might be able to. I can't say that they didn't happen.
Yes.
I don't recall ever witnessing them or doing them myself.
Or of hearing anybody saying that they've been the safety officer.
Correct.
Or, when discussing these scenarios, you've never heard the term safety officer being discussed about who's going to play the role as a safety officer, make sure things are safe.
No, sir.
Okay.
All right. Okay, that'll conclude the statement. Approximate time. All right, this is Special Agent Gary Negrinelli, Florida Department of Law Enforcement. Date's August 12th, 2016. Approximate time is 2:39 p.m. I'm currently at the Punta Gorda Police Department. This will be an interview with Punta Gorda Police Department Lieutenant Katie Heck. Also present in the room is Special Agent Supervisor Patrick Crow. Katie, could you state your full name?
Katie Heck.
And can you spell it?
K-A-T-I-E-H-E-C-K.
Okay. Can you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay. What's your current position here?
Currently, I'm a lieutenant that oversees community services, and I also operate as our public information officer.
Okay. How long have you worked here?
10 years.
10 years. Anything prior to this? Law enforcement?
Not law enforcement, no.
Okay. So this is your first law enforcement position?
Yes.
Okay. So we're here to talk about the shooting incident that happened the other night.
Yes.
Were you here during that time?
No.
Okay. You know it involved Officer Lee Coel?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever worked with him before?
Yes.
Okay. What capacity?
Well, I was the prior canine handler, so when he was appointed, well, actually, I was one of his field training officers, so we could start there. And then I would work with him, obviously, on the road. When I worked on the road, talk canine stuff and everything. And then I was his supervisor when I took over this position.
Okay.
And that was in September, October of last year.
Okay. So you guys did some canine training together?
Not canine training together, no.
Okay. All right. Any kind of training? Firearms or...
I don't want to say no because we could have been in an in-service class together. I just don't recall. I mean, I'd have to look at records for that.
But you were his field training officer yourself?
I was his field training officer.
Okay.
One of them. And I don't want to misspeak. I think I was his primary one because I do know that I released him from field training as far as onto the road. So I think that means I was his primary. I just would have to look.
Okay. But no training at all with the canine?
No, aside from just advice, like here and there, that kind of thing. But we didn't overlap. Like I wasn't his supervisor and also working a dog. So all of his training was through Northport Police Department. Mm-hmm. And that's when I was still on the road and not his supervisor. Mm-hmm. And then when I took over as his supervisor, there was a couple months where he was still training with Northport, and then we switched over to Charlotte County Sheriff's Office.
Okay. Had you attended any of these Citizen Academy?
Yes.
And you've been there for those scenarios?
I attended the last one because I kind of facilitate them as far as just kind of the organization and making sure everyone's moving the right way.
Right.
So the last one was the first one that I've actually attended. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't outside for most of the shoot, don't shoot, only because one of my jobs I actually sat inside with the other person that was going to participate. So I don't think I watched the other one, so I haven't actually seen one completely happen.
Okay, so you had never been out there for any of them?
No. The previous Citizen Academies that I'd been to, I think I did a canine demo at one of them, kind of the same thing that Lee has done for the Leadership Charlotte ones. Mm-hmm. This particular one didn't have a canine demonstration because they wanted to have a much shorter time frame. Okay. So he came solely to do the shoot, don't shoot.
Okay. But you were aware of what the scenarios were?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how many did they do? How many times have they done this? Do you recall?
That's up for some discussion, I guess. There's not a lot of good records, I guess, on specifically when it started. It seems as though it started about 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. Because at some point our leadership academy classes, I guess, evolved from us going over to City Hall and being part of a larger government day to then bringing people over here. And it looks like about 2 years ago we started the shoot, don't shoot scenarios.
Okay. There's something we haven't been able to find out if the revolver that he used, if it was issued or if it was his personal. Are you aware of the gun that he used?
I'm aware of him having one.
Okay.
To the best of my recollection, he had it when I took over K-9.
Okay.
And I truthfully just assumed, because you do need a blank gun.
Do you? Is that part of K-9 training?
Yes, I didn't have one only because I did all of my training with the sheriff's office. And truthfully, when I was a K-9 officer, we had just started the program again. So we didn't have training narcotics. We didn't have a lot of things. We really relied on the sheriff's office for all of the extra equipment we would need. I just assumed he got it either through the department or I just assumed he was allowed to have it, because you need it to train, because that's part of the USPCA certification and also the FDLE certification. So.
Right. And I'm sorry, so he had already had it when you took over?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. But you had seen it before? Had you seen him use it?
Yeah, I saw him use it at a demo. I could look up the date for you, but I actually went to one of his demos, and they used it at the demo. Actually, he didn't use it. Another officer actually fired it because then Lee let the dog out and, get him for the gunfire.
Gotcha.
So,
okay. Shows the dog runs toward the gunfire? Is that
it? He fired the shots like inside I think it was the Marine truck, like one of our trucks. And the dog actually jumped in the passenger side window and grabbed the other officer and pulled him out.
Where was the demo at?
Lashley Park.
How long ago was that?
I could actually probably pull it up on my calendar. It was...
Excuse me.
believe it was in September, but I could certainly get that date for you. I just would have to go through our calendar.
Last year, September.
Oh no, wait, sorry, when is this? No, it was just before we got served with all the paperwork and stuff I was thinking of, the dog bite happened in October, but stuff didn't come out until like June, so it was probably April or May, because it was just before, it was just before the public debacle with the canine apprehension.
Gotcha. And Lashley Park, where is that?
Yeah.
Is that here in Punta Gorda? Or?
Yes, it was. It was called Yappy Hour, so I know that for sure. So that's what I can look up and see when that was.
What is that? What is that?
It was for the Animal Welfare League. It was.
okay.
So that was there.
Yappy Hour. All right. So gotcha.
So were you his supervisor for a period of time as a canine supervisor?
Well, when I took over this position, and then when Tom took over, Chief Lewis took over as interim chief in September.
This past September?
Yes, September 2015.
Right. Yep.
So I moved into this office just prior to Butch leaving. So there was like that interim time. So I would say it was October when Tom redid our organizational chart and K9 started answering to me. So I was in charge of him I was the K9 supervisor. I just didn't have a dog anymore, which is why I wasn't like training him actually.
So from when were you his supervisor? From what time to what?
I would say October of 2015 until we switched it over to operations again. I think it was about a month ago.
About a month ago?
Yeah, a month or two ago.
So as part of your capacity, did he come to you for supplies and things that are clear? How did...
He would he would give me requisitions if he needed equipment. Periodically, could one have gone around me and gone straight to Jeff? Because what it is I sign it, then it goes through operations, then Chief signs it, and then it actually gets submitted. So...
So how does that happen? Like, I guess what we're trying to see is who gets him the ammo? You approved it?
The blanks? Yes.
You approved that?
Yeah.
Okay. And then what happens from there?
If it's something I approve, I give it to operations.
Okay.
Jeff signs it. Jeff gives it to Tom. Tom signs it. And then it goes to Amber. And she would actually place the order, and she's our property evidence and property person.
She places the order how? To a vendor?
Yes. Yeah, because for certain equipment, there's approved vendors because it's city procurement.
Okay.
So we have like a list of vendors, and then if you're ordering under something under a certain umbrella, which I'm sure ammunition is one of them, it would go through whatever vendor she's allowed to order from.
Okay. So specifically, would you have copies or, invoices that would show his last requisition for blanks And any other supplies?
I don't.
Okay.
He hands me a paper.
Yeah, and you
one.
sign it?
I sign it and
All
turn
right.
it on, and I hate to say it, but I just rely on Amber to have those records because
Gotcha.
she does. I mean, you know, she would
Yeah,
keep
no,
those.
I understand.
Yeah.
So, do you recall the last time you put in for blanks?
No, I mean, truthfully, I don't remember specifically an order for blanks.
You don't?
No, but that doesn't mean that one didn't come through.
Well,
you know,
it's
I just don't.
Right. No.
Yeah.
So you don't remember one any time in the recent past? Okay.
No.
Could it be possible that somebody in his position can go out and acquire an item and then put in a receipt for reimbursement?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can that happen?
Yes.
It can?
The process for that, if officers have to buy stuff that's, you say on a Saturday, say he had a demo that night and needed blanks, he could buy them, and then the person that he would submit that to is Beverly, who's the chief's administrative assistant.
Okay.
She runs petty cash. So there's like a receipt, and like we've had it happen with like cables and stuff for cars. You fill out the receipt, just you write down like what it was that you purchased, and then she would reimburse you, and then she sends that receipt to finance somewhere or something.
Okay.
Because it accounts for where the petty cash went.
Okay. Okay, so if I hear you correctly, and forgive me, Gary, if I'm not here, you don't recall the last time, you don't recall any time he's ordered blanks, or you don't recall the last time?
I don't recall any time that I signed for blanks.
For blanks, okay.
Yeah.
All right. How long would it take for a particular officer to use a box of blanks if he ordered a box?
Sure, for canine.
You know, I'm talking about a single box, not like a case.
Yeah. I mean, they could last a long time because
one small box.
Yeah, because I know. I mean, and just speaking from experience, when I didn't have a blank gun in canine, I know my husband had stockpiles of blanks because they just bought them and they never even used them all.
Okay.
So I don't, to train a dog, you don't use it a lot in training. You use it when you're certifying.
Okay.
So, I mean, a dog knows you hear gunfire, the dog runs toward it. So, I mean, 1 or 2 times. And then if he's using them for demos, even if you shoot twice in a demo, I mean, we're not doing demos that often. So
okay.
I can't imagine a box of even like 24 wouldn't last several months.
Okay. Was there ever a time you remember where you supplied him with blanks? That you handed him blanks?
Yes.
Okay. When was that?
It was when I moved because we cleaned out all of our ammo.
Sure.
And that was, where are we right now? It's August. So we moved July 4th weekend. So it was sometime the second week of July. I gave him a box. It was definitely a small one, and it was of blanks, and they were left over from my husband.
Okay.
Because we just determined there was no reason we didn't need them.
Yeah, I understand. Do you
One
recall-
box? I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry. 1 box or 2 box? 3 box?
Definitely wasn't 3. I think it was 1, because it was like a small square.
Okay. Do you recall the name of the blanks?
No.
No?
But I could possibly, if my husband remembers, I could ask him, because they weren't mine, so I don't.
Okay, they were yours?
Yeah, they were. I think they were left over from the sheriff's office.
Okay, can you describe the box?
It was, I think it was gray, but it was definitely an actual cube.
Okay.
And it was just older cardboard, and it, opened from the top.
Okay. Do you remember the name brand or the design on the box? Anything about it identify the box thinking back?
No.
Was it a box?
Was
it a type of blank you were familiar with?
No.
That you've used in the past?
I've never fired a blank gun.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't.
Is it a specific kind that Charlotte County orders? They just ordered that kind?
It would be theirs, yeah.
Kind.
So I don't know what that was. That's what I'm saying. I could probably determine what it was.
Okay.
But I have no idea.
Did you ever look inside the box and see what they look like?
I opened it. I still couldn't tell you. I wouldn't probably be able to tell you what it was, but... Do you
remember they were silver or brass?
I think they were silver.
Silver? Okay.
Yeah, I think they were silver.
Okay. Can you describe them to us, what you remember?
No, I think they were... I truthfully have no idea. I know they look different than regular bullets. guns.
Yeah.
I'm not a gun person.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate it. That's a stupid thing to say, isn't it? I mean, I know my gun and I know my.
I'm
not a gun person either.
Yeah, so.
We know what you mean by when you say that.
Yeah.
It's a tool for you and nothing more. It's,
yeah,
it's
and so.
I understand.
Yeah, which is what the main reason I was like, do we really need to stockpile these anymore? Because there's no reason for you to have them. So that's why.
Right. Gotcha. Okay, so prior to that, was that the only time you've issued him those?
Yeah, that was just the one time, like, leftover.
And you had them here on the when you said you moved, like when you moved from your house or from?
Oh yeah, no, we moved houses, so we were cleaning out stuff.
And you had some extra, what you thought were extra ones from your husband?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, and you believe they came from Charlotte County, but you're not sure, or?
They should have, because he wouldn't have blanks for anything else. I think like I said, they never used them.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. If we showed you a photograph, would you be able to recognize the box, you think, or no?
Probably not, because I truthfully don't remember.
Okay. All right. Okay. Would you be able to ascertain the name of the brand that your husband used?
I think so.
You would?
Yeah, because he would probably know better than me.
Yeah, well, right, exactly. Since they trained with him, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thinking back again, anything descriptive about the box?
No, like I said, I'm pretty sure it was gray.
It was gray, okay.
And I know it was old. Like, I mean, it was definitely, like...
They were old?
Yeah, okay. It was probably like 10, no, not 10, that's probably an exaggeration.
Okay.
But it was an old box, which is why I was like...
What was the shape?
Like a cube. Like a...
Perfect square?
Yeah, like a perfect square box.
Okay. All right. Any... Aside of the gray, any markings on the gray box? We're trying to prompt your memory.
I know. I don't remember.
Okay.
It was...
Was the box full?
No.
No. So it was missing some?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Okay, and as far as him obtaining blanks through the department, you don't recall requesting any in the past months, weeks?
No.
No? Okay.
You're saying, though, if he reimbursed and did the petty cash thing, Beverly would have a...
It would go through Beverly.
So she would have that.
Yeah, she does something with the receipts. Like, I don't know if she maintains them here or if they go over to finance, but we have to say what we bought, and I would guess that she obviously maintains something.
Okay. And she's available if we need to speak with her?
Yeah, she's here now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other kind of ammo that you'd ever gave him?
No.
Just those blanks?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing else? Okay. All right. Well,
do you have any questions? No? Okay.
Okay. That'll end the interview. Approximate times 2:57 p.m. This is Special Agent Gary Negrinelli of the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. Today's date is August 15th, 2016. Approximate time is 2:33 p.m. This is in reference to case number FM 010027. I'm currently at the Punta Gorda Police Department. Interview with Lieutenant Heck. Also present is Special Agent Supervisor Patrick Crow. Lieutenant Heck, can you state your name and state it for the record, please?
Katie Heck.
Spell it.
Katieheck.
Okay. And can you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay. And again, your position here?
Lieutenant of Community Services.
Okay. And how long have you been in that position?
This position since September of last year.
Okay. And then prior to that?
On the road as a corporal, road patrol.
And prior to that?
K-9 officer.
Okay. And then when you were a K-9 officer, you were a K-9 supervisor or officer?
Officer.
Okay. But you were never over the K-9 unit?
That was during my tenure here since September.
Okay.
Of Lieutenant of Community Services.
Okay. And you were over Officer Coel at one time?
Yes.
Supervised him? Okay. And before we talked about if you recall having signed any requisitions for some blanks.
Yes.
You didn't at the time?
Correct, I didn't recall.
But now you do? You heard that there was a requisition?
Yeah, we've been doing some research.
Okay. And then if I showed you the requisition, would you remember it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And this is the order. this is the requisition.
Yeah, this would be what I would see.
Is your signature on that
Yes.
requisition? Okay. And it's
Yep.
under the supervisor?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's right.
And this was February 11th, 2016?
Yes.
Okay. And it was for 3 boxes of special Super X blank rounds?
Yes, sorry.
Specifically Winchester. And these, is this, this is made out to this High Power Outfitters?
Yes.
Is that a typical place that you guys go to?
It's a local gun store, so yes.
Okay.
We've used them. I know we use them for gun cleaning, and I think we've used them for our rifle purchases that were not the government ones that guys are buying.
And those blanks,
So
for the record, were 38 special blanks.
Yes.
Do you want to look at it again?
Yeah,
Just to verify that?
yeah, I'm pretty sure they were. Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, 38.
As far as the training of the K9, did you guys keep like a training log each time that you did specific training with the K9?
Me as a handler or Lee with his dog?
Either?
Lee's now, yeah, I mean, he keeps training records. He trains with the sheriff's office, though.
Okay.
It's a Charlotte County Sheriff's Office. He did all of his initial training with Northport Police Department. And then he trains with the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office. So I personally, even though I'm his supervisor, am not involved in his actual training.
But
if that makes sense.
He keeps his own training records?
Yes.
Okay.
And then they're also on a computer system.
Okay.
Are they maintained at Charlotte as well?
I don't know.
Okay.
From what I understand, no. I don't know if that was the official answer or if that might just be.
Okay. Were your records maintained?
Yes.
They were?
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
They've changed supervisors a couple of times, so I don't know if maybe that's a practice that they're not keeping up with anymore. But.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, you mentioned Northport?
Yes. His initial canine training was with Northport Police Department.
His initial training?
Yeah, the whole canine academy.
To get certified?
Yes.
Okay.
And he continued training there until I think it was September or October of last year. I just don't know the exact date, but it was September or October.
After his certification, he continued like regular
Yes.
canine training with Northport?
Yeah, and that would be, I think Northport was training once a week, and at some point I know he got cut down to only twice a month because that's what's actually required. And just for a staffing issue, we just couldn't get him up there once a week.
Okay. And that was until when with Northport?
Northport was switched to Charlotte County in September or October. I just don't know the exact.
Okay.
Do you know why?
Without looking. Northport was in a lot of bad press with all their canine apprehensions and everything, and we just felt their district for the state attorney's office and everything is also different.
Okay.
So there's just a lot of practices that are different.
Gotcha.
That it just made more sense for him to come back here.
So the training is just required twice a month? Or?
Case law requires, you're going to quote me on that. I think it's 16 hours a month or 8 hours a month for every discipline, which is why we train twice a month, because then the dog is dual certified in patrol and narcotics. So it just, there's no real requirement except for case law saying how long each dog should train in each discipline.
Was there a requirement on keeping a training log? Or is it
there's case law requirement for it. Okay. You have to produce it in court.
Okay.
That's mostly on the drug side, but for us there'd be no difference for patrol as well.
Okay.
So he does document all his training.
As far as the ammo goes, again, it looks like the requisition was for some Winchester 38, and we're just trying to see if those other rounds that were given to him, if you can recall, like if I showed you a box.
I can try.
Okay.
Do you ever recall giving him blazer blanks?
No, I think Is Ranger a brand?
I don't know.
Oh, I truthfully don't
Okay.
remember. It was honestly one of those things when we were moving, we didn't need them, and
Sure.
I put them in a Publix bag or some kind of shopping bag and gave them to him.
That bottom one, you recall?
That looks familiar.
Mm-hmm.
We're just trying to figure out how he came into possession of those.
Yeah.
The Winchesters are solved. We bought those.
That might have been it, but I just don't know for sure.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah.
Which ones were the Blazers?
The rectangle, yeah, that's like a rectangle box, right?
Yeah,
Which ones?
the bottom ones.
Okay.
The only thing on that, the top of the box doesn't say anything about being blanks.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so positive that the box that we gave him said something about being blanks on them.
Okay.
Because that's how I knew they were different than other ammo that we have, you know,
Right.
because...
Do you recall looking in the box?
No, we talked about that before.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I just...
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't...
And again, it was how many? What do you think?
Well, I actually do think it might have been 2 boxes, just in talking more about it, because I know it was in a bag, and I'm thinking, well, if I only had 1 box, I wouldn't have put it in a bag, and I know I gave him like a plastic bag.
Okay. All right.
Which actually, we were in the back lot. I don't know how long. I don't think our cameras store that long, but he was parked in our back lot.
When you gave him the ammo?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, I mean, for what that's worth, but I don't know what that,
Oh, no,
you know.
you said it was, you moved the 4th of July weekend?
Yeah, so it was probably before, like the week before, like as we were packing.
So, first part of July, end of June?
Yeah.
I would think. That you handed these over to him in
Yes.
the back lot? Okay.
Because it was definitely before we moved.
All right, you know the cycle on that? Is that a 30-day, 60-day cycle?
I think it's 30.
30?
But that's not under, you know, I don't know
Okay.
for sure.
All right.
That might be what they tell us, and then it's something.
Okay. Was it? Well, obviously you're here. You're here like what, 8 to 5 or something? Is that your?
Yeah. Yeah. So it would definitely
What is
be during
he-
the day.
what
He
does
normally
he
works
work?
nights,
Okay.
but that's hit or miss because a lot of times he comes in during the day as well. So,
Okay.
I mean,
You
for
recall-
sure it was
you re-
during the day.
It was during the day.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
No, I think we need to talk to Captain Woodard.
Okay. All right.
No, we're good.
Okay.
Thank
For
you.
now.
That'll conclude the
Thank you.
statement. Approximate time is 2:43 p.m.
Good morning. I'm Special Agent Michael Ortiz along with Special Agent Alberto Diaz of the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. Today's date is August the 10th, 2016. The time is 1 a.m. Be taking a sworn statement from Punta Gorda Police Department Captain Jeffrey Woodard. Last name is spelled Woodard. Captain Woodard's date of birth. Captain Woodard's work address is the Punta Gorda Police Department at 1410 Tamiami Trail in Punta Gorda, Florida, 33950. Captain Woodard's today's interview is reference to an officer-involved shooting that took place at the Punta Gorda Police Department late yesterday evening. Captain Woodard, can you please state your name and your date of birth?
Jeffrey B. Woodard.
And Captain Woodard, do you know the meaning of perjury?
Yes, sir, I do.
In your own words, can you tell me what perjury is?
Perjury is lying under oath.
Yes, sir. And at this time, will you allow me to swear you in for the purpose of taking a sworn statement?
Yes, sir.
Your right hand is raised. You, Captain Jeffrey Woodard, solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the matter we're about to discuss?
I do.
Very well. All right. You're captain here at Punta Gorda Police Department?
Yes, sir.
How long have you been with the police department?
Approximately 14 years, with a
Okay.
break in the middle there.
Okay. And as a captain, what are your duties here at the police department?
I oversee the everyday functions of just about everybody that's sworn in the agency.
Okay. And In prior interviews, I understand that you at one time were in charge of the training division.
Correct.
Okay. And what type of certifications do you hold?
I am a defensive tactics instructor, a non-knock baton instructor, vehicle operations instructor, and I believe that is it.
Okay. Do you hold any certifications in firearms?
No, sir.
Armor?
No,
like that?
no,
Okay.
sir. Actually, I am an AR-15 armor, not handgun.
Okay. And so you give me briefly your job duties. Direct your attention to an event that occurred here today. I'm going to show you a copy of it's on Punta Gorda, I want to say letterhead. It's not as a picture of the Punta Gorda Police Department patch. And it looks like an announcement. Chamber Police Night, Punta Gorda Police Department, outline August 9th, 2016, 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Are you familiar with this form?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay. And you want to hold on to it to refresh your memory? Okay. If you can you give me an outline of an event that was being held here this evening? Or yesterday evening?
It was a chamber police night where we invited members of the chamber into the police department to learn more about how we do our daily job, some of the risks involved. It included a presentation by the chief right up front. It went over budgetary stuff, budgetary things, a brief agency tour, and a static display set out in the parking lot. After the static display, we had a scenario-based shoot, no shoot scene set out by the parking lot gym. The people that were going to participate in that in the very beginning, we had 4 cards that were randomly placed in booklets that were placed in the training room. Whoever opened up their booklet and had it, 2 people would be selected to do the taser shoot, and 2 people would be selected to do the shoot, no shoot scenario situation.
And how many people were invited to this event today?
We were told this afternoon that it was going to be 40.
Okay.
I want to say it was like 32. There's a couple empty tables.
Okay. And who was the Punta Gorda Police Department coordinator for this event?
Lieutenant Katie Heck, I believe.
Okay. And the people that were the personnel from the police department, can you give me a rundown on who the personnel were that were participating in today's event? Or yesterday's event?
Chief Lewis, Lieutenant Chris Salzman, Captain Jason Giuschini, Officer John Kennedy, Officer Brandon Angelini, Officer Shane Chodakowski, Canine Officer Lee Coel, our accreditation manager Gloria Sapanic was there.
And were you there?
Yes, yes, sir, I was there, and I
right.
can't think of anybody else that was.
Okay. And so the event started at 5:30?
Yes, sir.
And what time? And it says here on the appears to be an announcement or the outline, it ran until 7:30.
It was supposed to, yes, sir.
Okay. So it's going to run this by and just tell me if this is accurate. The first part is the chief's welcome. The chief is Chief Thomas Lewis, correct?
Yes.
And basically, the chief's welcome encompasses a welcome to all participants to the police department and a PowerPoint overview of the department. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
The second phase was a police department tour consisting of 15 minutes. I guess the facilitators of that was Lewis, Salzman, and Giuschini.
Yes, sir.
And that involved a tour of the criminal investigation section, evidence and property, shows an overview of the CIS function. And for our listeners or for somebody reading the transcript, what is CIS?
Criminal investigation section.
Okay. Section B, road patrol section, a tour of that, 5 minutes. And that encompassed an overview of the road function. And then there was a tour of the records section, which consists of an overview of the records functions. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And the third part of the outline shows a static display. For those reading a transcript or listening to the interview, what is a static display?
Static display is we had 3. We had a Marine unit, a road patrol unit, and our bicycle unit. And that's when they set up their equipment, their vehicles, and give a brief overview of what their duties are and walk them through the equipment that they carry and the vehicles that they operate.
Okay. And I see that the static display did encompass the Marine Unit, Road Patrol, and Bike Unit, and those involved Punta Gorda Police Department members Kennedy, Brandon Angelini, and Shane Chodakowski. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
In the fourth section consisted of a shoot, don't shoot scenario, which I guess 25 minutes were allotted for that, and the facilitators for that were Lewis, Salzman, and Chodakowski, and Coel. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And basically it says the whole class will participate in this after viewing the static display. The fifth section has classroom teachings, which 25 minutes were allotted, and shows Lewis and Salzman. The classroom teachings, section A had taser, 20 minutes, overview of the weapon, overview of uses, and a demo. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And section B is weapon systems, patrol rifles, Glock, OC, ballistic shield. 15 minutes allotted for that, which was an overview of the weapon and overview of uses. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. But the last two sections we didn't end up getting to.
I'm just covering what's on the agenda. Section 6 was a Q&A period, which was 10 minutes was allotted, correct?
Yes, sir.
And section 7 was evaluation of the class.
Yes, sir.
And as you said, section 5, 6, and 7, classroom teachings, Q&A, and evaluation of class, that wasn't done this evening, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's go to section 4, the shoot and don't shoot scenario. Again, 25 minutes allotted by the facilitators were Lewis, Salzman, Chodakowski, and Coel. Give me a little bit of background again. The scenarios.
My involvement or the scenarios?
Give me an overview of the scenario. Did you set the scenario up?
With the scenarios, this is an activity that we've done 4 times in the past, maybe more, 3, 4, or 5, right around there. We've brought in different groups and done it. We always do the same 2 scenarios. The first scenario involves a suspicious person just looking in vehicles at a hospital. That's the first one. The second scenario is you're responding to a bar fight, and we have 2 role players that are engaged in a physical altercation upon the arrival of the selected role play officer.
Okay. So the shoot don't shoot scenario, 2 scenarios, right? So how is somebody run through this? How many people were selected for the shoot don't shoot scenario?
2 were selected for it.
Okay, and each one of them, from what you're saying, they were going through the 2 scenarios: the suspicious, the person near the car at the hospital, and then the fight or the altercation, correct?
Yes, sir.
2 separate scenarios. Okay, and the first person going through that shoot don't shoot scenario, the second person following, would they be sequestered in another room so they wouldn't know what was going on, or how does that work?
Yes, sir. They were in the training room.
Okay. So, okay. Who developed this particular scenario?
I have no idea. I can't even... I'm sure when we did the very first one, and I'm going back, if I had to guess, over a year, okay. I'm guessing that we sat down and came up with... I can't give you an answer to that. I'm sure we all got together and thought out, hey, this would be a good scenario. Okay. Actually, I think it came from, this was a scenario that we saw that was done by some other agency on YouTube, is how I think we came about it.
Okay. Is there any written guidance? Do you have a manual that has a step-by-step?
For these scenarios, when we put these on, I don't believe so.
So there's no written assignments, but a written script.
I don't believe we have anything like that.
Explaining everybody's duties and roles.
Itinerary.
No, sir.
Okay. Did you participate in tonight's shoot don't shoot scenario? Were you?
I did.
Okay. And what was your role in that?
My role was, my role tonight was to keep the group and our officers on time. to make sure that they weren't going over any of the time limits. While they were, the officers were doing the tour, I went into the armory to secure one of our simunitions weapons for the role player.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I went in there and grabbed our simunitions, 9mm Glock, cleared it, set it on the table, pulled out simunitions, ammunition, and a empty magazine, and took a badge that we use for the scenario-based thing. Detective DeVault, that come in, and I said, let's go through the Sims ammunition together. I pulled out the simunitions ammo, he looked at it, I looked at it, I said, hand it to me. A couple at a time, we'll put it in just to make sure that we were using simunitions ammo. So we did that, loaded it up. I think we ended up having 18 simunitions rounds in the magazine. Slide was locked back on the Sims gun. I had the magazine and I had the badge. I took that along with 2 taser cartridges that we were going to use for the taser scenario, and I placed them in the training room while everybody was completing their tour.
And so Detective
DeVault,
okay. Was that like a debriefing with him, just a safety check?
It was a safety check, yes, sir.
Okay. And who was the officer playing the suspicious person?
Officer Lee Coel.
Officer Lee Coel, okay. Was there any briefing done with him prior to tonight's?
I don't know if there was a formalized briefing with him. I spoke to him out in the... Actually, I spoke to him. He said that he didn't have a mask for the Sims thing, and I said, okay, well, I'll run and get you a Sims thing, which is in our off-site. It's in our storage warehouse. So I went over there and I grabbed 2 masks, one for him and one for the other role player. I brought those back to him, and I said, okay, they're finishing up the static display. They should be here. We should be ready to go in just a couple minutes, and the rain's coming in. So
okay.
Hopefully we'll...
When you said the other role player...
Officer Shane Chodakowski was going to be the second role player for the physical altercation.
Okay, so that's separate than...
Yes, sir,
okay.
I'm sorry.
That's fine. So, Chodakowski, you got a mask for Chodakowski for the second scenario?
Yes, sir.
Which did not take place?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Correct.
Gotcha. So, you had a talk with him. Any type of safety check?
No, sir. He did tell me... He did tell me that he had his gun in his waistband. The gun that he was going to use for the scenario, and he said he wasn't sure if he was going to leave it on his person or he was going to put it at the back of the vehicle that he was using in the scenario.
Okay.
I don't remember having any conversation with him one way or another.
Okay, was this face-to-face with him or over the phone? Or
this was face-to-face. This was in the parking lot.
Before the scenario?
Before the scenario.
Okay, did you do any weapons check?
I did not. I went in...
weapons check at his weapon that he was...
I did not.
Did you ask him if he had any other duty weapons on him or any other weapons?
No, sir, I did not.
Did you do any pat-down on him?
No, sir, I did not.
Have you, in years past, what is your protocol for... You've done this scenario before, correct?
Correct. Okay. Today, with my involvement in this entire event tonight was last minute. I'm not on the agenda. So I wasn't in on the planning or the scheduling of people. It was actually spare of the moment. I said, hey, well, I'm here. I'm going to stay with you guys, and if you want, I'll help keep you on task. So I wasn't involved in the entire...
In these type of scenarios...
Can I...
No, please, go ahead.
As far as in training, when we would do scenario-based trainings, you're 100% correct. We do safety checks. We check each other, and we make sure that... I did not do that tonight.
Okay. When you do these type of scenarios, say tonight or even in the past, is there an assigned person who maybe I don't know what you may call it here. I would call it the safety officer. Was there such a role this evening?
In the past, it is always in the past, and I'm not talking about every scenario like in service training. When we have done these, we all pretty much act as safety officers because the chief is out there. For the most part, I'm out there. Captain Jaskini's out there. Lieutenant Mohop. Sometimes there's another lieutenant out there, and we're trying to keep everybody back so they don't.
Who would normally be at safety officer? Somebody who's the closest to the scenario? I mean, is there usually a designated?
Usually we check each other and then we double check. Tonight, like I said, I didn't completely know who was running. I wasn't in complete control of the scenario, and like I said, I did not check him. I did not ask to see his.
Who was in control of the scenario? Whose scenario was it? Somebody owned that scenario. Who owned it?
I don't think that was ever discussed as in the beginning of this, as far as who was actually running the actual scenario.
Okay. So you brief with Officer Cole, and there comes a time when this scenario starts. Who's facilitating the scenario? Is there somebody leading the scenario? And
yes, sir.
Go ahead.
What I was over at the static display, and I went over to the chief and I said, the rain is coming in. I don't know if you want to move this along, just like I told you I was trying to keep everybody on task and track. He said, okay, where are my two people that are going to be involved in this? He pointed them out. I spoke to them, and I took them into the training room.
And who were they?
I don't know their names, sir.
Okay, was one of them the victim?
Yes, sir.
And another one, what was it, male or female?
Female.
Okay, and what did you explain to them?
We went into the training room, and everybody else was filtering over there, and the role players were going over there. And I told them exactly what it was. It was going to be two scenarios. And I went over a brief nomenclature of the simunitions. Told them both how dangerous they were. Even though they're Sims guns, they can still seriously hurt somebody. You don't want to point them at your your other classmates. You want to be completely careful. If you're in a scenario and the scenario's over, don't point it, don't turn. We'll come to you.
So it sounds like you had control of them, both of them.
Yes, sir, I did.
Did they have their simunitions at that point, or did I give it to them later on?
They did not. I still had it separated. Like I said, the slide was back. I had the magazine. I had the badge. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to load it or do anything until I went to the chief.
Okay.
And then I took I spoke to her outside the door, and
the victim?
Yes.
Okay.
The victim. And again, explained it to her, and she said she was nervous. And I said, I understand. I said, we're nervous when we go on calls like this too. Mm-hmm.
Do you know if any personnel from the police department involved in these scenarios had control of Officer Cole?
No, sir, I wasn't aware of that. I was just watching the two.
Okay. Would that be normal in years past? Have you, with the person playing the other role?
My assumption would be that there's an inside control person and there's somebody outside, because with the amount of space that's in between and the dynamics of the scenario, would be very difficult for one person to control that entire scenario.
Okay. Will you close? Well, I'm trying to just create a word picture, because I wasn't there, so I'm trying to lay out a word picture for review. Obviously, it's going to be reviewed, so just trying to create a word picture through you of the scenario.
As far as where I was standing?
Let's go there.
Okay. If we go from when we were in the training room and I had that discussion with both of them, I told the lady that was going second, who they even had a discussion about who was going first. And
was it just you and the two ladies?
No, Don Royston was in the...
Who's Don Royston?
He is a local newspaper gentleman.
Okay.
He was sitting on the chairs in there. I don't know how much he actually heard.
And one note that I wrote myself was, do you videotape your scenarios?
No, sir, we don't.
Okay. Do you know if it was videotaped?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it was videotaped.
Okay.
I heard.
Did the newspaper reporter, did he have video? Did he?
No.
No. Okay.
No, he's strictly
print?
Yes.
Okay. So it sounds like you had control of the two ladies.
Yes, sir.
But you don't know, or do you know if
what was
anybody had control
happening.
with Cole, if you've been briefed, or if he had a handler? That's what I mean. Control a handler.
No, sir, I'm not.
Okay.
I was at the static display. I took the two females, and that was inside up until. And I went over that. I don't know. Tell me when you want me to stop. I can walk you right through to where we went down there.
Do we know if Cole was issued a handler? Somebody did a.
I do not know that.
Okay. Yeah, walk me through. So you bring the ladies, one lady out because one is still in the classroom, right? Because she's.
I'm having a discussion with the victim outside, and she's like I said, we're talking about how she's nervous, and I said we're nervous too when we go on calls like this. Went over indexing again with her, and the safety of not putting your finger on the trigger until you were sure that you were going to pull the trigger. I walked her down to the group and introduced her, or said, "Chief, here's your new officer for the night." I handed Chief Lewis the firearm with the magazine still pulled back, the magazine, and the badge. Chief Lewis then went over the same. He went over some more of the same safety instructions that I was providing her. I don't remember what exactly was said. He I want to say he put the magazine in the weapon, or he shut the magazine and he put the he racked the slide, put the magazine in it, but it wasn't charged. I believe I charged it as I was walking her over to the sidewalk area. We got over this.
It appears to me with your hand gestures that the chief was inspecting the weapon.
I believe, yes. He was, yes. I handed him yes.
Okay.
And he actually, I believe he was doing a safety thing with the class, showing them the cartridges and the fact that there's still gunpowder in it, and I don't really recall what else he was saying, but he was going over the safety.
And he was addressing the victim as well as the audience?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The Chamber of Commerce folks? Okay. And did you have any line of sight with Officer Cole at this point, or was he sequestered?
No, sir. Didn't even see him.
Didn't see him? Okay. So after Chief Lewis explains to the audience about what's taking place, explain to me what happens next.
I walked her over to the sidewalk, and the sidewalk is where I give final instructions. I've done it, if we've done it 4 or 5 times, if I had to guess, I did it 2 or 3, I don't know. It seems like that's where I usually am, and I say, okay, here you are, you're a police officer, you're responding to a call for duty at Bayfront, Punta Gorda. All the information you have is that there's a suspicious male looking into the vehicle. I said, you remember indexing and everything that we went over? And she said, yes, that she did. I said, do you have any questions or concerns before we go on? She said, no. Usually we have them get out of a patrol car, like they're pulling up to the scene, and exit the vehicle. And Lieutenant Salzman was there with me, and he said, do you want her to use the vehicle? And I thought, no, we're fine just the way she's going to make the approach on foot. and she made the approach on foot.
Okay. What happened then?
She approached Officer Coel, who was, I believe, standing in the middle of the two vehicles. Don't know what she said. Don't know what he said to her. At some point, Officer Coel, I believe, went around. I think the vehicle was pulled towards the building. I think he went around towards the front of the car. Don't know if he retrieved the firearm from the vehicle or from his waistband. Didn't see it. I believe I heard one shot up front.
From the front of the vehicle?
I believe from the front of the vehicle, furthest away from the crowd. And then he continued to go around the side of the vehicle. And I think I heard one or two more shots, but I can't tell you. I heard 2 or 3 shots.
Okay.
The victim stood there, and Lee was done and didn't think there was anything out of the ordinary. She seemed frightened, which is a normal reaction. And I'm still at the sidewalk. I don't know how many feet, 15, 20 feet away. And then she bends over at the waist and still, she's just nervous, or sometimes they buckle down and they're laughing because they had fun.
Right.
But this time she kind of, she didn't stand back up. And my first impression was, I hope she's not having a heart attack. So I walked, ran, I don't even know what I did. Somehow I went over there, and I don't know who got there first. I don't know who did what. But I know she was bent over, and I think I said, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I saw her left arm maybe, reach out to the ground, and I saw blood hit the pavement, and I was.
Did Officer Coel make any statement? Did you recall?
Everybody was making statements. I don't know.
Okay.
If what.
At some point, was the victim responsive at all after you got to her?
She was moving. I don't know what what if anything she said. The chief was with her. She was surrounded by a couple of us. I don't remember. I know I turned and started running to our fire and EMS to try to get them to come down and help. Part of me still didn't understand that she had been shot. Part of me thought that she had a heart attack, and as she was falling or leaning, she might have cut herself, and that's what the blood was. I still did not even fathom that she had been possibly shot. So I turned and I ran to fire and EMS. They came down. While I was coming back, Corporal Becky Grimm was there, and she said, I don't know what she said. She pointed out a gentleman standing by the back of the car, so just like we would do in any situation like that. If they're getting too involved and taken away from the paramedics, then we try to calm them down and remove them so the paramedics can do what they want to do. And I came to find out that that was her husband, very distraught. And I tried to calm him and move him back, and at some point while they're working on the victim, I led him away and I said, "Hey, do you have your car? Do you want to follow them to the hospital? You want me to drive you? I'll put you in my car and we can follow them just so you're there when the ambulance gets there." He said he wanted to drive himself. I walked him
from the scene over to the side parking lot where his car was. I backed him out, and I said, wait here and we'll see what way the ambulance goes. At that point, while I was there, Captain Jaskini came across, and I said, do we even know what happened? And he said, it looks like there was live rounds used, some sort of verbiage like that. At that point, I contacted our criminal investigation section, and I jumped into...
Okay. So she was never... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I jumped into trying to coordinate what was happening on scene. After our guys were done roping off the scene, walking up, Chief Lewis asked me to sit with Officer Coel, myself and Officer Juan Gonzalez, then sat in the lieutenant's office with the door closed, sequestered, until you guys...
Did Coel make any spontaneous utterances?
He did when we were in there. He said, Lee, I'm not asking you any questions. I'm not advising you to say anything.
Right.
He was there, like I said, it was probably, I don't know how long it took. We were in there for a couple hours, and he did make a statement. He goes, I just don't understand what happened. These are the same rounds that I use all the time, and I just used them the other day with Joe.
Who's Joe?
At the time, I wasn't thinking. I was kind of, but having time to think about it, Joe Trufan, who was an officer with us, helps him with canine demonstrations, and I guess that they just did one the other day.
Okay.
And he kept saying, I don't understand what happened. I just don't understand. And just try to say, Lee, nobody understands what happened. We're trying to figure out what happened as well.
Is Joe Trufan?
Trufan, Trufan.
Is he a member of the police department here?
Yes, sir, he is.
Okay. Going back to Lee Coel's, the weapon that he used, can you describe it to me?
The only part, he's used his canine, and I was under the impression that it was a blanks gun, just nothing but blanks for canine trials and everything like that. It's a silver revolver. Tonight I didn't see it. I know when I was out there talking to him in the wash bay area, the covered overhang where the vehicles were shown up, where the vehicles were staged, he was there, and he said he had it in his waistband, and that's when he said, I'm not sure if I'm going to kick it in my waistband or my on the car. And at that point, I saw a sliver of it in his waistband, but I didn't take notice. I didn't look at it.
Is his canine revolver, blank gun, is that an issued equipment from the Punta Gorda Police Department?
I believe it is an issued firearm. I'm not 100% certain.
And would you be able to check in the armor or see if it's serial numbers
yes,
and things
sir.
like that? Okay. And is a 38, just want to gather from what I've gathered, a 38, is that an approved weapon, an off-duty weapon for your agency?
It is.
It is?
I don't know of anybody that carries a revolver or a 38.
Would they have to qualify?
They would if they were going to carry it off.
Yep.
And that's not 38, 357, anything like that. That's not a. It's not ammunition that we purchase, that we give out, that we even maintain in our armory. We have no 38 or 357 rounds whatsoever.
Right.
As long as I've been here, I don't remember ever maintaining or having.
But it's possible that he was issued a training gun for. Who would have been responsible for the issuing of that?
The training
supervisor? Would his supervisor be responsible for that? How would the purchasing go for that?
There would have been a I don't know if it was a recent purchase, and by recent I'm saying within the last year,
okay.
Or if this was, he took over that canine unit from another officer
approximately 2 years ago. I don't know if that was part of the transfer.
Okay.
But one way or another, if it would be documented somewhere.
Okay. So all training equipment would be documented, leashes and things like that?
It would be, yes.
Okay.
But it was, in my understanding, Lee has actually fallen under my supervision within the last month. My understanding has always been that it's a canine blanks gun. I can't even imagine that he was allowed to qualify and use it as a dual purpose.
Okay.
I don't know. All that would be, if he was using that, then there would be qualification records saying that he but I don't know, sir.
As far as ordering blanks for the training, is that something the department would order?
And in Lee's I wouldn't know that. Again, since he's the 4 weeks or so that he's been under my thing, I haven't done that.
Okay.
I want to say that I'm actually not sure, sir. I don't know who purchased them. If it would be something that the department, we wouldn't expect him to buy his own blanks for canine training.
Right.
Or
would there be a record as far as the brand? I mean, the brand and the type of blanks that
I would imagine there would have to be a receipt for.
Okay. And that would be kept on file here at the police department?
I would imagine so.
Who's your purchasing person?
It would either be Captain Gischini or Beverly Marquis, who is the chief's assistant. Somewhere there should be.
All right. That's all the questions I have right now, Special Agent Diaz.
What what kind of gun is that? You said the blank, the canine gun. What is that?
I believe it's a 38 special.
38 special. I mean, is that something that that's given to the canine officers?
Outside of it being,
or I mean,
it's not a. That was my understanding is that was provided to him for trainings for blanks.
For training.
For training.
Okay.
It was not issued as a secondary or a backup weapon.
It is issued as training.
Specifically
training. Because he's a canine officer.
Yes.
Given to canine officers, that specific gun is given to canine officers.
For training.
Okay. And where is that normally issued? Where, I mean, did they give it to them in the armory, or did they give it to them at a when they're given their equipment, or when they receive this new position?
That's what I'm not sure of, if it was a transfer from the last canine officer to Lee, which that would have been documented through property, which would have been a property, and Captain Gischini oversees that as well. I'm not certain if this was a new department purchase that we made for Lee. And if that's the case, that would have been issued through property as well. I'm not sure if it was a transferred firearm or if it was a firearm that we purchased for Lee since he's been in the canine unit. It's been a year and a half. Maybe.
Yeah, how long has he been in the
I think a year and a half.
Okay. How, okay, so tonight, you were in the armory with that detective, right?
Detective Duvall, yes,
okay,
sir.
and doing the checks of the munitions. And is this for the citizens or the participants?
Yes, sir, for the participants.
Okay, and how many firearms did you guys have for those participants?
That we used tonight?
Yeah.
We used one.
And that was going to be passed around for the participants for the scenarios?
It was the two, yes, sir.
Okay, all right. And then you did that count with the detective. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. So is that normal? Going back to that canine, that gun, or that's given to him for munitions. I mean, this academy or Citizens Academy, if we want to call it that, it's been done before, right?
Yes, sir.
What are we in August now? So how many times has it been done this year? Do you think?
This year, I would say once, maybe.
One time.
One time.
So this is the second time that's been
done?
It
could have been. We could have done it twice before. Yeah, one. I don't know. One or two more times this year. I think once.
Okay. I mean, is that okay? Were you a participant of that? Of the second one?
I was a participant in
what sense?
the majority of them.
In what sense? What
Probably
would be a role?
the same role that I had tonight.
And which is?
Going over the nomenclature with the participants and walking them down there and setting them up for the scenario.
Okay. And then with that other one that was done, or the other one or two that was done earlier this year, was going back to those, what kind of actions were done for that same thing in regards to safety for the participants and the officers? What would normally be done? Would there be checks done as well with those officers right before the scenario would be played out along with the participants, or?
My assumption would be, like I said, there's usually 4 or 5 of us down there that act as safety officers. As far as the role players, I've never personally checked them. My assumption would be that they check each other, but I don't know that. I've never checked them.
For the other two earlier scenarios, the ones that the earlier, what do we want to call this event? I'm sorry, just the chamber police night, but
the shoot no shoot scenario.
Yeah, these scenarios. I mean,
Correct.
Same thing. It wasn't done. So
I don't know that it wasn't done. I just didn't say that I
it wasn't
done by me.
It wasn't okay. It wasn't done by you. Okay. Here's my question. What would be so I'm not understanding. So then, if these K-9 officers, who else are issued these play guns or these munition guns? Just K-9? That's
just
it?
K-9.
Okay. And then they're responsible for it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then when it's time to participate in these this chamber night or any kind of citizens academy, so what would be the common practice for them? They would just bring it with them, and then are they provided the ammunition or the play ammunition, or is that issued to them months ago?
Yeah, we only have one K-9 officer.
Is he the only one?
He is the only one.
I'm sorry, what's his name?
Lee Coel.
Okay.
And he maintains his own blanks ammunition because he trains a lot. He does a lot of demos and everything like that. So he maintains his own ammo for that. I'm sorry. I'm tired and
no, I know. I understand.
My
take your time.
My assumption is that it was just for blanks. I had no time, was aware that it could even fire actual rounds. I wouldn't know what a blank round looks like, as embarrassing as it might be. I wouldn't. I'm not a big ammo or firearm type of guy, but again, I go back to my assumption was it was a blanks gun. At no time should that have been commingled with any live round. I can't, in my head, unless he qualified with it, I just can't imagine us ever saying, yes, you can use your blank gun as a secondary weapon. In no scenario in my head can I see how that could have been commingled with actual rounds.
Okay, so and then for this chamber night, was there a meeting between you along with everybody, all the participants beforehand, before this started?
No, sir.
Like, hey, it was, or was it kind of go as the events went along? It's just like going along with it. Is that
yes, sir.
Kind of fair to say how it played out?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so there was no briefing beforehand. Be like, hey, this is what I plan to do. It's kind of my understanding is people showing up, and then, hey, I'm just gonna go do my role, kind of thing, or do my participation in this.
Yeah, we've done it. Like I said, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 times before, something like that. Lee has been the role player, if not all the time, almost all of the time. So when I just spoke to him in the parking lot, the only thing I said was doing the same scenario as the first one is going to be the suspicious person one. That would be as much of a interaction that I had with him as far as the reprieve would
beforehand.
would be.
Okay.
I didn't get with the role. I don't even think I spoke to Officer Chodakowski tonight, the other role player. I didn't know who was doing what role. I didn't.
That's what.
So if there was a debrief and they did it between themselves, or it was involved with somebody else, I wasn't part of that. I was with the two participants going through their part.
Okay.
But I'm not aware of an actual debrief that had transpired before the actual scenarios.
What do you mean?
I'm sorry, I'm not aware of Lee and Officer Chodakowski, Shane, getting together, or if they did, to say, hey, this is the scenario rundown that we're doing tonight. I think everybody felt comfortable in the fact that we had done it multiple times in the past to great success. So yeah.
Do you know if Officer Lewis, if he worked a full
Chief
shift?
Lewis?
No, I'm sorry. I mean, what's the officer? I'm sorry.
Cole.
Cole. I'm sorry, Officer Cole. Do you know if he worked a shift prior to this, before this scenario, or if he was just coming on, or if he coming in on his day off? Do you know?
I believe that he was in a training class down in Fort Myers the daytime today from 8 until 4:30. And then he stayed over. He came back to the station to do this.
He came back to the station to do, participate?
Yeah, I don't know that he went home. I think he came right from Fort Myers to here to participate in this.
Okay. Does he have a take-home car? Or?
Yes, sir, he does.
Okay.
Captain, would he have been authorized to use any personal weapon for a scenario?
No, sir.
Okay. And do you know if his canine, his training weapon, has ever been inspected?
No, sir, I don't know that.
Okay. Do you have annual or quarterly
We do quarterly
inspections?
line inspections.
Okay, and what does that consist of?
Going through vehicles, checking to make sure that equipment is in proper working condition. We also do an annual armory inspection in which we account for all our weapons.
Okay, how about specifically weapons inspections? You know, checking the condition of the weapon, the officer's weapon. When is that done?
When we would do that is when we do firearms qualifications.
And how often do you folks qualify?
Annually.
Annually. And
if he wasn't qualifying with that, I don't know that it would have been inspected.
how about his canine equipment? Is there a record kept of when it was last inspected?
I would imagine that it would fall under the quarterly line inspections.
Okay. And with that line inspection, is there an itemized sheet of all the equipment issued, serial numbers, that type of thing?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And he came to your squad or under you about a month ago?
About a month ago.
Okay. August, July?
I would say that's fair, yes. Beginning of July, maybe.
Okay. Beforehand, before this Chamber of Police night, he had the training in Fort Myers. He comes back here to participate in this. Do you know of him meeting with anybody or speaking to anyone beforehand about this, or preparing for it?
He had to have spoken to somebody. I'm guessing maybe Lieutenant Heck, because she coordinated the names and everything like that. But I didn't have any conversations with him. I don't know who he spoke to about it.
Okay, and then so basically, since from the prior, one or two times that you guys have done this scenario, these play scenarios with citizens, it basically is like, okay, we've done this before. Everyone kind of comes and meets, and then the checks are done with the citizens, but it's kind of, the officers, when they kind of meet together, they check each other in the past for when, for example, at the range. But for this, it wasn't done today. And then what about the other two, the ones that you've participated in, have you seen it? Have you seen it where checks were done with each other, with the officers, where they would be role players?
I can't recall.
Okay.
I can't. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know that it wasn't done tonight. I mean, they might have checked each other tonight, and I don't know. I don't know if Shane and him got together and I don't know what transpired.
Okay. But K9, he's only K9 officer, and then, so my understanding is he's given this munitions gun for training purposes.
But I guess it's not a munitions gun, from what
or
a blanks gun.
A blanks gun. I'm sorry.
Yes.
A blanks gun. I'm sorry. It's a blanks gun, and he's given blanks ammunition for it, or whatever, for when he's given it for training, etc.
Yep.
And then so he's in possession of this. He maintains it.
Yes, sir.
Kind of, okay. It's not kept here at the station.
No, sir.
It's not kept in the armory.
No, sir.
It's not kept in any other place.
He trains, I'm going to say once a week with the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office. And then he does a bunch of demos, so he maintains all that stuff just because of the frequency that he uses it.
Okay, and where you say with the Sheriff's County, we're at their range at the Charlotte County.
They train all over the county. I don't know how often they do blanks or anything like that. I don't.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
Yeah, who was the supervisor before you took? Did you supervise it was just one K9 person, right? Or do you have
just
more?
one K9 person?
Okay. And who was his prior supervisor?
Lieutenant Katie Heck.
And you have your agency has a policy on officer-involved shootings. What's done afterwards?
Yes, sir.
What does your policy entail as far as officer-involved?
I would honestly have to sit here and read it.
Okay. I don't mean to put you on the spot.
We don't deal with a whole lot of officer-involved shootings, and I'm not. This would be a time where I would pull it out and actually read it.
Okay.
Did you see what actually happened? Did you actually see what happened to Officer Cole after she collapsed? And did you see what he was doing? Did you see what he was doing? Or able to get?
I believe. It was so hectic. I believe he came running around the car to see if she was all right and asking. I think I remember him saying, "Ma'am, are you all right?" I think I can't even tell you who was there. There was I don't know, 4 or 5 of us around her.
Okay. Did you see? Do you know what was done with the gun after that, or who did what with it?
I do recall. I don't know.
See or heard? Did you see it, or did you hear it from somebody else? Or
no, I saw when I was standing, and I don't know if it was. I want to say it's after I ran and got EMS, and I was standing with the husband, that I recall seeing.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Keep going.
Lieutenant Chris Salzman. And I don't even think I saw the firearms. I think I saw him put a casing or 2 casings on the whatever the other vehicle was to the right, on the trunk. But I don't think I saw the weapon itself. I remember seeing casings. I remember Chris with it. That's all. I don't know where he got it from or anything like that.
And another thing, that this blanks gun that he's issued, do you know if he's also issued a holster with it, or?
I don't believe he is.
Okay.
Because he would only use it for training. I don't know. I guess in my thinking, I don't know what he would need a holster for if it was.
So my understanding is, he's issued this gun when whoever becomes an K9 officer is issued this gun, and they're issued their own ammunition.
Correct.
And that would be, I mean, would that be done here at the armory when it's issued to him, or when he's given this gun, and if he's given this gun along with the blank ammunition, would it be done here at the station, or it's basically, is it given to him in a box and handed to him and he signs for it?
The firearm he would have. As far as the blanks, I'm not really in the know as far as, like I said, being new to it, I don't know how that was handled. In the month that I've been there, I haven't given him any blanks, ammo. It could be something that he would go out and purchase himself, and we would reimburse him if that were the case. But that hasn't happened within the last month, and I'm not sure what the protocols were prior to him coming with me.
Yeah, and before him, prior to coming to you, have you ever issued him anything, or you think of?
If I ever issued him anything, I'm sure I
as
have. I was in charge of the armory for.
Okay, so and you basically do that for all the officers.
Yes,
okay.
And I do. We do quarterly ammo where we give it out to the officers, and they have to sign for the quarterly ammo, and I've done that for years as well. Okay. I'm sure. I can't recall if he has one of our agency patrol rifles or not, but when he first started here, we've changed how we did quartermaster. So could I have issued him things? Yes. That would all be documented in our quartermaster system, but I can't recall if I did or Captain Gischini did. If I'm on vacation, he might have, but it would all be in the computer. Okay.
So so this blank gun was, at some point, it was issued to him, and
at some point, I know that I had never. It didn't. That was not. I don't want to say never because my memory isn't working all that well tonight. But I don't recall being involved in the issuance or the purchase of that at all.
Okay. Oh, and he was in training earlier today in Fort Myers. Did he go to training there with anybody? Do you know?
He was there with
another officer.
I believe it was Officer Calvin Jimenez.
Calvin Jimenez?
Yes.
Do you remember what kind of training it was?
It's something to do with narcotics identification, or.
And they went to the training together?
Yes, sir.
And at the Criminal Justice Academy?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. And then, so he was there with him, to your knowledge, down there with him, and then he came back and to participate in this.
Yes, sir.
And then, okay. All right.
Okay, we're about to wrap things up. Just going back to the shoot, don't shoot scenario. Just paraphrasing, there was no designated safety officer. Correct?
Not that I'm aware, sir, no.
Everybody acted as a safety officer, pretty much, correct? That's
yes,
what
sir.
You said earlier. Alberto, you have anything? All right. That's all the questions I have, Captain. Is there anything that you can think of that I haven't asked that may be important?
No, sir. I think I told you everything.
Okay. Has everything been the truth, to the best of your knowledge and belief tonight?
Yes, sir, it has.
That'll conclude today's interview. Today's date is the 10th of August 2016. The time is exactly 2 a.m. Thank you, Captain.
Thank you.
Hey, Charlotte County. This is Charlotte County COPWATCH, and I wanted to explain what fair use is. You can use pieces of news articles if you're doing it for news reporting, you have commentary, and you're doing it for education purposes. So that's what fair use is, as you can see right here. Another reason why I wanted to make this video is to let you know I just joined with Patreon. A nice thing with Patreon, I make no money on YouTube. They took the money away years ago. And so this is another way to give, and it's a nice thing too, because you can give monthly. You can give $1, $5, $10, whatever. I do 4 to 5 hours a day on trying to wake the sheeple up on how corrupt it is and different ways that you can fight the corruption. So Patreon is a way that you can do it, and then of course the old way is still there. Donate to Charlotte County COPWATCH with PayPal or credit card. So keep that in mind. 4 to 5 hours a day. I make no money, but the corruption happened to me, and I'm sick of it, so I'm trying to wake people up. But my wife would love it if some, if we could get some help out there. There's 47,000 subscribers. Just think if each one of you subscribers just gave a, let's say, actually, yes, $1 a month. 47,000 subscribers gave $1 a month. That would be awesome. That's not going to happen. But anyways, that would be great if it did happen. But, do the math in your head. Just think about it. Like I said, 4 to 5 hours a day. I get no money from YouTube. YouTube has gone nuts. You can't do anything anymore. They're taking the money away everywhere. So these are a couple different ways that you can still help out with all this time that I put in. And as you know, I'm in a special situation where, at least I can do it. 4 to 5 hours a day. We have a cleaning company during the day. That's what allows me to do this, and we're debt-free. So this is my hobby. I don't go fishing and all that other crap. I try to save the world. So help me out to make the wife happy, man. In fact, if you guys did give $1 a day, and there was 47,000 of you, and you did it, and each of you gave $1, and that was every month, oh my God, yes, I could quit. I could start suing them. Another idea, too, that we have is, if I got, some funds, we could actually contact everyone that has been ticketed and or arrested and put in jail and start sending them postcards to let them know we're here, and to see if everything went all right, and if it didn't, find out their story. So we could even do more investigations and more lawsuits. Lawsuits take money. So just think about that. 47,000 of you so far right now. $1 a day. $1 a month on Patreon, or $5 a month Patreon, 10, 20, whatever. Just do the math in your head. Help out. This is a lot of work every single day. Thanks.